Welcome to Nextfem Leaders, the podcast for conscious, ambitious women who want to make a real impact with their careers without losing themselves or their well-being in the process. I'm Isabel, your host, a leadership coach with over 13 years of corporate experience. I know how hard it is to lead in systems that were not built for us, especially if you're introvert, kind, intuitive, or spiritual. So here I will share the tools that blend the practical and the mystical, the feminine and the masculine, so that you can lead with clarity, confidence, and authenticity. If you know in your bones you're meant for much more, you are in the right place. So let's start! Hello, beautiful woman. Welcome back to the Nextfem Leaders podcast. Last episode we talked about the hyperachiever saboteur, an episode that quickly became one of your favorites. If you haven't listened yet, make sure you do. And today we're addressing another saboteur that I see so common in the women I work with as an executive and leadership coach. This one is more popular when talking about female leadership topics, but still I feel it involves so many mixed messages in our society that I feel it's important to explore it here in our podcast. What I'm talking about is the disease to please, or also known as the people-pleasing saboteur. In this episode, again, I'm working with the positive intelligence research from Chisard Chamin, and the reason I want to explore it here is this. While this is a topic that we often hear about when it comes to women in their careers, it still appears to be one of the main saboteurs in many of the women I work with. And at some moment in our careers, especially when we're asked to take the lead, the part of us that was trained to be liked can get very triggered. As I mentioned in the last episode, outsourcing our power and worth to our achievements can be a trap, but trying to be a wonderful person all the time can be a dangerous trap as well. Because when we are trying to please everyone, without considering our own needs and wants, we are also sourcing our worth to something external, other people's opinions. And same as with the hyperachiever, if we depend on something external to accept ourselves, we end up being very vulnerable. So today I want us to go deeper on the people-pleasing saboteur. We will cover what are the main characteristics of this part of you, why is sabotaging you, what is the cost specifically in your leadership at this level, and how to transcend it so that you can step into your next level. So where does it all begins with this saboteur? Research shows that girls are more likely to be rewarded for being obedient, agreeable, helpful to others, nice, both at home and school. Many of us learn very early in our lives that the world rewards us when we are nice, helpful, and silent. In Latin America, we even have a saying for this, calladita te ves más bonita, which means you look prettier when you're quiet. So let me tell you a story. When I was 3, I was sent to kindergarten, and I was a bold girl, very adventurous, wild in every sense. I was always talking, singing, dancing, and had an incredible amount of energy and positivity. When my mom went to my first performance review, she was told her kid was so well behaved, so quiet, so agreeable, that my mom believed the teacher was talking about another kid. So she clarified, I'm actually Isabel's mom, that girl there. And the teacher confirmed she was actually talking about her child. I heard this story as a funny anecdote for a while. My mom got used to hearing amazing reviews from the teachers while she still had the wild girl at home who was never quiet or silent. But I think it covers something many of us have lived. We put on a mask when we go outside our houses. 2 decades later, I lost my mom, and I found myself in a moment where I started realizing that my entire life and career was following a checklist of expectations. I got so used to be a good student and to be a good girl and a liked girl that I lost completely touch with the other parts of me. And this is probably the biggest cost of pleasing people. We can easily lose ourselves in the process, to the point that we don't even know what we want or need anymore. And here is what I want you to understand. This is the opposite of leadership. Becoming a leader is in so many ways the opposite of being a people pleaser. Because leadership will require you to disappoint people, to make choices others disagree with, to say no more than you say yes, to hold people to standards they don't want to meet, and to stand firm when you're pressured to change course. I have learned this in my own skin. Every new level of leadership in my business, I know it will come with many people getting disappointed. Because the more I grow, the more I get really selective in where and how I use my energy. And many people won't be comfortable with the next version of yourself. The pleaser saboteur in us wants to keep everyone happy. It wants to avoid disappointing anyone. It wants to get approval before acting. It changes positions to reduce tension, and it says yes to maintain harmony. This and leadership hardly coexist. You cannot lead and please everyone. And for many women, this is especially painful because what got you here won't get you there. Because as we saw last episode, this also applies here. The saboteur comes from an overuse of your skills. So you're probably empathetic, loving and giving, tuned into others' feeling and need, and emotionally very self-aware with potential for high emotional intelligence. And these are amazing skills. The problem is when you are relying on these skills as if they are the best strategy for every context. And strategies are dependent on the content. Your next level of leadership will probably ask you to disagree with many people. It will ask you to make hard calls, to manage conflict, to share the risk of a project, and many times to deliver bad news. And for these situations, your empathy might not be the best strategy, because we can't control other people's emotions, and their reactions are also not our responsibility. What I have seen with the women I coach who have this saboteur is that many times there are other parts of them that they also are asking for space, such as their courage, their self-worth, the parts of them that also wants to have space for their own dreams, and even their ambition. And when they learn how to give space for them by managing the people pleaser, they realize that they can be both assertive and empathetic, courage and kind, and they become a powerful new way of leadership. Let me clarify, I consciously use the word manage. Sometimes I see in social media people sharing that they are a recovered people pleaser or a recovered perfectionist, and the truth is, I believe some of these parts of us come from very early in our lives, and they might be there all our lives. But for me and the women I work with, it's not so much about taking them out of the equation, but understanding them so well and consciously and strategically deciding when to use them. Now, our culture makes this quite hard because we receive mixed messages all the time. And Alicia Menendez in the book The Likeability Trap really nails this. She names the exact problem. Women who try to be like lose respect, and women who focus on being competent get punished for being unlikable. So either way, you lose. I myself have shared a few times how I received the feedback that I was too sweet earlier in my career and later that I was too aggressive, making it really impossible to win. We have also seen an increasing amount of pressure on women to be present mothers and also career-driven women, setting up standards that are impossible to achieve. So let's stop these crazy standards on women. And what I have found working so well for me and for the more than 100 women I have coached is not to become someone different, but to become so aware of all the parts of you, of all your different strengths, that you can tap into each of them strategically. So now, let me tell you what is really happening underneath of all this. Because the pleaser saboteur tells you a major lie. I don't do this for myself. You tell yourself you're being selfless, generous, a good person, that you help others because it's the right thing to do. But here is the truth. The positive intelligence research reveals. The pleaser tries to earn attention and acceptance through helping others. So this is an indirect attempt to have your emotional needs met. So let me say this again. You're not actually being selfless. You're trying to get your needs met, but in an indirect way that actually most of the times doesn't work. This pattern is fed by two beliefs you pick up in childhood. The first one is I must put others' needs ahead of my own. And the second one is I must give love and affection in order to get back. I must earn it, and I'm not simply worth it of it. As little girls, many of us learn that we're not worthy of love just by being ourselves. We believe we have to earn it through helping, through being nice, through making others happy. That's why when I left the house, I became a different girl. So every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you avoid disappointing someone, every time you soften your message or diffuse your authority, you're not being generous. You're trying to earn the acceptance you don't believe you deserve just for existing. This is why it's a saboteur is operating from a fundamental lie that your worth is conditional, that you have to trade your needs for others' approval, that love must be earned and not received. And this creates an impossible standard because you can never help enough or please everyone. And at the same time, you can never get your needs met mainly because you're not asking for them, which many times take us to build resentment because we are giving from an empty cup. And please remember this word, because when we feel resentment, it's a message that a boundary has been crossed. So now that you understand what's really happening, let me break down what the people pleaser saboteur actually costs you as a leader. The first cost is that you lose yourself and your direction. When we don't know what we want and what we need, we have lost direction. And without clear direction as a leader, everything else collapses. And when I'm talking about direction, I'm talking about self-direction. Where are you going in your career, but also team direction? You know, I believe as within, so without. So how we lead ourselves is also how we lead others. The pleaser saboteurs make providing and holding direction almost impossible because let me be honest here, direction requires disappointing people. It requires choosing and saying we're going this way, not that way. It requires anticipating risk and communicating when there is something not working. And when we're constantly with fear of being judged, it's very hard to take this role. And this brings me to my second point, the second cost, that you're not being clear. And as Brené Brown said, clarity is kindness. I remember one of my clients, she was managing a team of 6 people in an international company. But she told me she felt they liked her as a friend, but she didn't feel they treat her as their leader. So she would think as a leader as somebody you follow, you respect. Well, she had to almost beg for people to do their job. When we start digging deep into how she was showing up, we noticed so many ways where she was diffusing her authority to be more likable. In simple things such as how the way she asked them to do things, using phrases like, when you have the chance, could you please me the favor to? She was teaching her team that her requests were optional, that she wasn't really their leader, that they were doing her a favor, not doing their job. And then she felt resentful because they didn't prioritize it. But how could they know to prioritize it when she framed it as when you had the chance? So we work on managing her people-pleasing saboteur, on clarifying where she was headed and what she needed from her team to all of them getting there. We also work on managing the guilt that was coming every time she thought someone might get offended. She started showing up as a powerful leader, and her team not only respect her more, but they also appreciate this new level of clarity. Because here is the thing, while you're trying to be nice, you are also not being clear. And by not being clear, you're also making it harder for people to do good work. I have seen this even at higher levels. Women that are in an executive team and that they are over-explaining every decision to gain consensus. Their male peers simply state the position and move forward. They are working twice as hard for half of the authority. Now, the third cost of this is burnout and resentment, because being a people pleaser is exhausting. The pleaser saboteur drains you because you're constantly reading every room for signs of disappointment, replaying conversations to see if you upset anyone, managing everyone else's emotional state, through suppressing your own needs and opinion, and crafting every message to minimize potential offense. Saying yes when you mean no, and then crumbling to deliver, and carrying guilt about boundaries you can set. Women already do more emotional labor at work, and the pleaser multiplies this by 10. This can show up as Sunday night anxiety, a physical exhaustion that sleep doesn't really fix. It can show up as decision fatigue from overthinking every interaction, and it can show as resentment that builds because you never get your own needs met. And this is not sustainable. None of this is serving you or your team. So now that you understand what this saboteur is costing you, let's talk about how to manage it. Because here is the thing, you're not trying to kill your empathy or becoming cold. You're learning to use your empathy strategically and to add other strengths to your leadership toolkit. So the first step, the first practice is to catch the saboteur in action. The first step is always awareness. Start noticing what this pleaser is showing up. Asking yourself, am I about to say yes when I mean no? I am softening my message to avoid someone's discomfort? Am I managing someone else's emotions instead of stating what I need? From positive intelligence, we know that labeling the saboteur weakens it. So when you catch it, literally name it. Oh, this is a pleaser talking. Or even better, you can choose a funny name. This creates space between you and the pattern. And here it's important not to judge this part of ourselves. Belonging is a basic need for humans, and being liked and accepted is something our primitive brain craves. The second practice is to get clear on what you want. This is a practice I see make a huge impact on the women I work with who have the people pleaser saboteur. As women, we have been so conditioned to think about others that many times we don't even ask ourselves what we want in our careers. Or if we do, we don't give ourselves the space to say it loud. So here is the practice. Get clear on what are you building. Where are you going in your career? What do you actually want your career to look like? What kind of leader do you want to be? We talk about this in episode 5, Let's Talk About Unrealistic Dreams, so go back and listen to that if you haven't yet. And then, and this is the crucial part, when you are in a safe space, say it loud. Say it to a trusted friend, say it to your partner, say it to yourself in the mirror. I want to lead the new product launch. I want the promotion. I want to write a book. Saying it loud makes it real. It takes out of the realm of selfish thought that I shouldn't have into the realm of legitimate desires I allow myself to pursue. Many of my clients tell me this is the hardest practice because they have spent so long not knowing what they want or knowing but never voicing it that speaking their desires feel dangerous. They also mention it's one of the most impactful parts of our work together. Because when you give a bigger space to your dreams, you naturally start taking more actions towards them. So practice number 3, use these 2 powerful questions. So I want to, on a daily basis, to ask yourself, what do I feel and what do I need? Here is the beautiful irony. You're already an expert at empathy. You're amazing at tuning into others people's feelings and needs. You can walk into a room and sense the emotional temperature. You know what your team member needs before they ask. Now I want you to turn that superpower towards yourself. You're in a meeting, someone asks you to take on another project, your pleaser wants to say yes immediately. Pause. Use your empathy on yourself and ask yourself, what do I feel right now? Am I overwhelmed, resentful, excited, afraid? And what do I need right now? Do I need space to think, to say no, to negotiate the scope? This practice reconnects you with yourself. Make it a daily practice to ask yourself these questions. Don't underestimate the power of this practice because of its simplicity. Because as I always say, simple is divine and complex is human. We often overcomplicate things. An excellent way to practice this is the 24-hour rule for non-urgent requests. When somebody asks you something that is not urgent, practice saying, let me check with my calendar and get back to you. This does 2 things. It gives you space to check in with yourself. What do you actually want and need? And it also breaks the automatic yes pattern. It gives you the chance to evaluate more strategically. Is this aligned with my priorities? And 2 key questions here. Do I have the capacity? And do I want to do this? So can I do it? And do I want to do it? Practice 4 is understanding the guilt. Is it real or is it growth? Let me tell you something important about guilt. Because when you start managing your people pleaser, guilt will show up. Maybe even a lot of guilt. Guilt is an unhappy feeling that you have because you have done something wrong or you think you have done something wrong. But here is what you need to understand. Not all guilt is the same. So there are two types of guilt. Type 1 is real guilt. You actually did something that is against your values or hurt somebody unnecessarily. This guilt is useful. It tells you to apologize, to make amends, or to do better. But there is a second type, and this is identity shift guilt. You did something aligned with your vision and your values, but it feels wrong because you are becoming someone new. This guilt is just the discomfort of change. When you set a boundary that before you didn't, you will feel guilty. When you say no to something that doesn't serve you anymore, you will feel guilty. When you give direct feedback instead of sugarcoating it, you will feel guilty. But this guilt is not telling you that you did something wrong. It's telling you that you are changing your identity. And what nobody tells you is that this will happen at every new level of leadership you reach. Because you are moving from the person that says always yes to the leader who protects her energy. You're moving from the person who makes everybody comfortable to the leader who prioritizes clarity. You're moving from the person who earns love through helping to the leader who knows she's worthy as she is. Identity change feels uncomfortable. Your nervous system interprets this discomfort as something is wrong. So here is how to work with it. First, I want to check with your vision. I want to ask yourself, is what I just did aligned with the leader I want to be? Is it aligned with where I'm going? If the answer is yes, the guilt is identity shift guilt. It's growth, it's not wrongdoing. So I want you to name it like that. To really name, this is growth. You don't have to make the guilt go away. You don't have to fix or apologize your way out of it. You can feel guilty and know that you did the right thing. This type of guilt will decrease over time as you become more comfortable with this new identity. But in the beginning of a new identity, expect it, welcome it. It's a sign that you are on the right path. And this takes me to the practice 5 and our last practice for today, which is build your saying no muscle. You need to practice saying no to get comfortable with it. And here is what helps. Every time you want to say no, ask yourself, what am I saying yes to? So no to the meeting is yes to focus work. No to solving their problem is yes to their growth. Start small. Skip one unnecessary meeting this week. Don't respond to a message immediately. Let someone solve their own problem. And notice what happened. Usually nothing catastrophic. And sometimes people actually respect your time more. Because people is all the time mirroring us. And when you say no, you are respecting more your own time and energy. So people will mirror that as well. So that is it for today, beautiful woman. If you recognize yourself in this episode, if you felt that little moment of, yeah, that's really me, I want you to know this is not a flaw. This is a strategy you learn, it served you, and now you're ready for the next version of it. That is what we do in our Becoming Her program. We do not change who you are, we unlock the next level of who you already are. If this episode resonates, I want to invite you to do two things. First, take the free saboteur assessment from Positive Intelligence. I will link it in the show notes so you can see exactly what are your main saboteurs and if the people pleaser is showing up at the top of them. And second, if you're ready to do this work at a deeper level, Becoming Her was built exactly for this. I would love to invite you to schedule a free career strategy session. During these 45 minutes, we'll have the chance to know each other, discuss your goals and main challenges in your career. And this is a beautiful opportunity with no attachment for you to gain clarity on where you are and what are the next steps, and also know more of how I can support you in this process. Whether they join or not the program, women usually find the sessions quite helpful. We only open 4 or 5 of these sessions a month, so come find me on LinkedIn or visit isabelfonseca.com. I would love to have a chat with you about your career and your next level. And with that, see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, let me know on Instagram at nextfemleaders or send your thoughts and reflections to info@isabelfonseca.com. I truly would love to hear from you. And if it resonates with you, I would be so grateful if you left a review or a comment so that it helps more conscious, ambitious women to find this space. And please don't keep it for yourself, send it to another woman you know who needs to hear this message today. Keep leading with your truth and remember, you already are a Nextfem leader.